the concept of practical spirituality, firstly, what do we understand by spirituality? The science of ihsan. And ta'budu Allah ka'annaka tarah, fa'in lam takun tarahu fa'inhu yarak. It's to devote oneself, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as if you see Him, ka'annaka tarah, fa'in lam takun tarahu fa'inhu yarak. If you don't see Him, to know that He sees you. This is what the masters and the teachers of this science codified, and it's known by many names. One of them is the science of ihsan, as what stems from this hadith. What is ihsan? Now, you also have the science of tazkiyah, which is related to purification. Often it's known as the science or the discipline of inward purification. Now, what does inward purification have to do with that which is practical? I thought it was important also to go through the word practical as well, because we also have a worldview and an understanding which we may need to, ponder and reflect over. When people say, I'm a practical kind of person, it can mean many things. Sometimes it means they're proactive, they just get on with it. Sometimes it can also mean I'm not really into the abstract stuff. I'm not really into the unseen type stuff. Just give me the 1, 2, 3. Give me the black and white. But the nature of the deen is intrinsically our spirituality has to, by necessity, be practical. It's another way of perhaps describing it is an applied science, an applied spirituality. And this has everything to do with the nature of our understanding of two fundamental and core components in Islam, ilm and amal. So ilm is sacred knowledge, real knowledge, and not just understanding, but a kind of conceptualization. So in order to embark upon a particular act, we have to first understand it. And then we have amal, which is interesting in the Arabic language. You have these, they're all the same letters, ayn, mim, lam. Ayn, lam, mim. And they're kind of intrinsically woven within our tradition. Ayn, which is, you could say, an accurate conceptualization of something, not theory. And this is why we need to be very careful of having this dichotomy between theory and practice. These words are kind of pretty inaccurate if we really look into the nature of our tradition. Knowledge in and of itself is a practice. Seeking knowledge in and of itself is a spiritual practice. It's not something that you do to have to get out the way to get onto the real stuff. And that's why seeking sacred knowledge can be greater than many supererogatory acts, voluntary acts, extras. Seeking sacred knowledge. But you also have an implementation. If you learn something, then there's a correct way to now apply it, and to be consistent in it, and to be sincere in it, and to deepen one's knowledge. So it's like planting seeds. Every part of knowledge is almost like planting a different type of seed, and knowing how it's watered and how it's encouraged to grow. This is a continual process. The knowledge has to be nurtured, has to be maintained. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man salaka tariqan yantamasu fihi ilm, sallakahu Allah tariqan ila al-jannah." The one that, man salaka, from where we get the word suluk also, the salik, the wayfarer, the person that traverses a path. And this can mean a physical path, because once again, these misnotions, there's no dichotomy between inward and outward in reality. What we mean by inward and outward, that which is outward, it's that which is manifest, that which can be touched, alim al-shahada, that which can be, but it's not purely superficial, and it's not irrelevant. And then we have alim al-ghayb, the unseen world, which pertains to realities, and the essence behind the form. But the form contains realities. So the body, the soul is cradled within the body. It's carried within the body. And the two cannot be pulled apart ordinarily. We don't see it as something separate. And this is why our formal acts of ibadah and worship, devotion, adoration, they mutually coincide. What does that mean practically? If you do something which is pleasing to Allah, it has an effect upon the soul. If you do something which is displeasing to Allah, it has an effect on the soul. A person by definition can't have a sound heart except that their outward, meaning their speech, what they're doing, what you can see manifest from them is also in line with that which the Prophet ﷺ came with. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هوى تبعا لما جئت به. None of you believe. And what this means, and typically in these ahadith, it doesn't mean a person has slipped out the fold of Islam. What it means is none of you have reached a depth of belief, a completion, a comprehensive form of iman, حتى يكون هوى, until your hawa, your base desires, that inner flow, the fuel behind the nafs, now is actually in line and follows ما جئت به, that which I came with. And the Prophet ﷺ came with this science of purification of the heart, and he came with the prayer. And the prayer has an outward form and it has an inner reality. So what we hope also to be doing throughout these sessions is going through some of the prophetic techniques, if you like. How to gain presence in the prayer. How to accurately conceptualize certain things. There are certain things within the unseen which affect our inward reality. One of them, the understanding of malaika, the understanding of unseen darker energies, the disbelievers amongst the jinn, and also how this impacts our thought process. So once again, this is purely practical, although you may not be able to see it. The methods, the modes of being, how do we maneuver, how do we approach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because if the discipline of Islamic spirituality as rooted within the Quran and the Sunnah, the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's an approach, a movement into presence with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a returning back to Him, which takes elements of preservation, takes elements of reorienting, takes elements of deepening our understanding. So these practices, if applied, a person will reach, because they say this is a path which is mujarrab, it's tried and tested. And for this reason it can accurately be called a science, because it's been tried and tested. Now the reality of these sessions, we could say at one level maybe this entire course, its reality is it will last a lifetime. The sessions of exchanges that we're going to have hopefully will differ. What we're hoping to do is on different days of the week. But the reality is in this continual acquaintance, continuously revisiting, continuously going back and understanding and weighing ourselves upon these balances and these understandings, which last a lifetime. What we hope to be doing also is to look through an accessible plan, a schedule, not just in our daily time management, that's one aspect we'll be looking into, but also in terms of our approach to different acts and different understandings within the deen. We hope to be learning and developing certain habits and understanding how we can best cultivate these things and how we can weigh these upon a broader tapestry of understanding, that whether or not we're falling short or at some days, and how to reconcile those things. In many ways it's like being on a ship in the ocean. There are many things that need tending to. You need to be acutely aware of the wind. You need to be acutely aware of the nature of the current. You need to be aware of the various weather conditions in order to and constantly focus and understand the goal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create the jinn kind or the humankind إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, except that they are in a process or in a constant state of ibadah, of worship, of devotion. And there are differences between what the understanding of ibadah is. There are different degrees. Not every human intellect is the same. Not everyone's aql is the same. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about ulul albab, the people of foremost intellect and insight. And the way that they devote themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not the same as everyone else. They're the qudwa, they're the example, they're the standard in which we're guided by, ultimately. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Fatiha, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. And this is a beautiful use of the rhetoric within the Arabic language, which the very grammatical positioning of the wording resonates and radiates the realities of Tawheed. That we're reconciled and we're focused upon attesting to the reality of the divine oneness. There are many ways you can say it. So hypothetically, you could say, نَعْبُدُكَ وَنَسْتَعِينُ بِكَ. We worship you and we seek protection, or we seek assistance in you. Now, hypothetically, you can add on extras in the nature of this sentence. You can say, نَعْبُدُكَ, we worship you, and you could add on extras, and. But the nature of the Arabic sentence structure, where we say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, to you, we worship. You can't say what. There's no atf. You can't add on anything else after that. Within the very structure of the sentence, you can't say إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, to you we worship, and other. It doesn't make sense in the, you can't do it in the Arabic language. So in the very meaning, in the very sentence structure rather, is the essence of Tawheed. Unto you نَعْبُدُ, we worship. We are worshipping. وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. So what's this reality that for this reason we were created? If we deepen our understanding and our certainty in the reality that we're all created, if we're going to be talking about practical aspects of how we worship, how we become people who are cultivated by devotion, their identity is ubudiyya. الَّذِينَ إِذَا رُؤُوا ذُكِرَ اللَّهِ. Those people that when looked upon, Allah is remembered, because the realities and the lights of khushu' and hudur, presence and calmness and brokenness and fear and awe, penetrate from their hearts throughout their entire limb, all of their limbs. How do we become these people? What do we understand? What are we doing? The pinnacle of this is the nature of the salah, the prayer. We're going to be going into this. But there are other components of ibadah. And the nature of the people of this archetype of human being, وَاتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ مَنْ أَنَابَ إِلَيْهِ. Follow the sabil, the pathway of who? Just everyone, anyone that says La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Man anaba ilay, the one that has inaba, and it's a form of ubudiyyah. It's a form of active movement. It's a form of, you could say, devotion. That's who Allah calls us to follow as the role models. Who do we have as role models? The people that are in constant devotion. People are in constant devotion, not part-time deen. People that are in constant approach, constantly facing, constantly receiving from the divine. Through them, we understand ourselves. Through them, we understand everything that's around us. Through them, we understand the nature of the deen. إِن لَمْ تَكُنْ مِنْهُمْ فَتَشَبَّهُ فَإِنَّ التَّشَبُّهَ بِالْكَرَامِ فَلَاحُ. If you're not like them, if you're not from amongst those people, فَتَشَبَّهُ, then resemble them. Be like them, imitate them. We're all imitating someone. فَإِنَّ التَّشَبُّهَ بِالْكِرَامِ فَلَاحُ. Because indeed, in emulating, in being like those people, is success. Success in this life. Success in the barzakh, in the grave, and success in the akhirah. And they become Rabbaniyin. They become lordly. People that are characterized, that's the meaning, that when they're gazed upon, Allah is remembered, because they're constantly engaged with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And ibadah is that directioning, the active focus towards what's real all the time, in a way which is beloved, dear, to the real, al-haq subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the reality of of Sayyidina Adam and his vicegerency, his stewardship on earth. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. Indeed, I am making a khalifa, a steward, a vicegerent. These are archaic terms. A representative. Indeed, I'm making a representative on earth. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the malaika in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, as we read, to bow down to Adam alayhi salam, it wasn't in worship of Adam, it was in worship of Allah and being told what to do. And the misunderstanding of Iblis, Aba wastakbar, he refused and he became arrogant because he added his limited rationale into it. And for that reason, catastrophically missed the point. It wasn't the point that what you think is right, or the point is that you obey. And who is the one that we're obeying? Who's the one that we're called to obey? The Sahaba understood this immediately. Sami'na wa ata'na. We hear and we obey. We hear it. It's from Allah. It's from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We obey. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed the malaika of this incredible reality, when Sayyidina Adam was formed, the malaika, this was not, we've got to understand that the angels are pure intellect. They don't have the capacity in their created being to dispute, to argue. So the nature of the question is one out of istifsar, one out of seeking a deepening of their knowledge of Allah, a broadening of their ma'rifah. How can we worship you greater? Are you going to make on earth that a person that causes corruption, spills blood? And what was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's communication to the malaika? Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. I know what you do not know. And as if an answer to what Allah knew that the Malaika did not know, and there are many things which obviously fall under this reality, some of which we're only made privy to. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, Allah taught Adam all of the names. And there are different interpretations with the Mufassirun, the people of exegesis, explanation of the Quran, of what this means. But it was done, what they call fi ma'rad tashrif. It was a display to all of the heavenly realm of who Sayyidina Adam was. Allah taught Adam all the names. وَعَلَّمَ, so knowledge. The ennobling of Sayyidina Adam was through a unique knowledge. And then what was the response of the Malaika? Subhanaka. Glory to you. La ilma lana. We have no knowledge. Illa ma 'allamtana. Except that which you have taught us. Innaka antal alimul hakim. Indeed, you are the all-knowing, the all-wise. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the human being, unlike the angel, has the capacity to accept, to embrace, to testify, to bear witness, and also to refuse, to abstain, to turn away, and to reject. And some of the scholars, they say this is the difference between even the meaning of the word abid and ibad. Abid, kullana abid. We're all abid. We're all under the divine qahr. We're all under the divine subjugation. And so, well, I've got free will. Okay, stop breathing for 15 minutes. Stop, change the inner workings of your organs. Can't do it. Did you decide when you would be born? Or who you would be born to? So even within this realm of so-called free will, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still gives us ample reminders that there are things that we have no control over. And in this is this, what they call an ikhtiyar. You have the capacity to choose. You have the capacity to go one way or another way. La ikraha fi din. There's no compulsion in religion. However, whatever choice you make, or to whatever extent you decide to engage or refuse those gifts, everything has an implication. Doesn't mean there's no compulsion in religion, there's no consequences to your actions. Absolutely not. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. And the one that works, يَعْمَل, that does, it's amal again, has a single act, مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّة. In a contemporary translation, you'd say like an atom's weight. An atom's weight of khayr, of goodness. Yara, we'll see it. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. And the one that sees and does an atom's weight of shar, of evil, of foulness, of corruption, yara, we'll see it. So everything, we're all abid. We're all abid. But the difference with the human being, they have this potential to orientate and engage. Every other creation is subjugated in this regard. Everything in the heavens and the earth praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, the human being has the capacity to raise even beyond the reality of the angels, in accordance to their following of those guidelines, those coordinates which were laid down to us by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it also has the capacity to to sink down, to lose one's humanity. And what's expressed in the Quran, to the asfal al-safilin, the lowest of the low. Hum kal an'am bal hum adal. They're like, Allah says, they're like an'am. An'am means like a grazing flock. It can be cows, sheep. Bal hum an'am. Why does Allah compare those people that are just going through life like livestock? They don't think, have no real purpose. They just chew the cud. They just eat and moo. You know? They just make sounds, eat, sleep, and drink. They go wherever the appetite takes them. You know? And the nature of an'am, the nature of livestock, like a cow or a sheep or a goat, is there's nothing wrong with it because it's doing what it was created to do. It wasn't as though it was falling short in its potential. It wasn't as though the cow, were it to work a bit harder, it could have really elevated itself within the society of cows. You know, or improved itself in its inner state. It's being a cow. It can't do anything more. It's closed within that capacity. However, Allah has given the human being a gift, a potential which can be unlocked. And this is why when a human being starts taking on the attributes of a cow, not thinking of any purpose, no meaning, no understanding of consequence, going wherever their appetites go. And that's not just appetites of the stomach. You know, because in human society we have reputation, we have status, we have, I don't like blame, I love praise. So go wherever the nafs, signals you to go. That's why Allah says, Belhum adal. Rather, they're even more astray from dalal, wala daleen. We ask in every Fatiha that Allah doesn't make us from those people of dalala, that have just lost the way. And they don't even know it. Belhum adal. They're even more astray. So, kullana abid. We're all abid. But the ibad is a specific form of the word, which, as we know, the root word is ibadah. But the ibad are those people which have made an active choice to now devote. And this is why whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises these people, He doesn't say abid, He says ibad. Wa ibad ar-Rahman. And the ibad, they're still the slaves of Allah, they're still the servants of Allah. But they've recognized this. Wa ibad ar-Rahman. Alladhina yamshuna ala al-ardi hawnan. There's some characteristics, all these beautiful characteristics of the true believers, that they walk gracefully on earth, hawnan, in a delicate way. And that can mean many things. It's to do with your gait, your stride, the way you walk. You don't walk mukhtan and fakhur. You don't walk in an arrogant or boastful way. But that also is indicative of an internal state. They're people of absolute humility because they've put everything in its rightful place. And the one that humbles himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise him. Man tawada'a lillahi rafa'ahu Allah. La ilaha illallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran in Surah Maryam, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. Indeed, those that believe, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, people of Iman, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. That's the first thing. When Iman is mentioned in the Quran, it's followed by وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Those people that have Iman, they have embraced and been gifted ultimately with an inner certainty that this is real. And the reason why I'm cautious to say just a belief, There are many types of belief. Iman is not quite belief. It's much stronger. It changes your entire reality. It changes your entire worldview. The people of Iman, they're not just people of belief. They have a belief in different things. But it's so impacting upon their reality, it drives them into an approach to the world and within the world, and an understanding of the world. It's transformative. And they're saved. They're in aman. They're in a state of aman, which is safety and security from falsehood, and everything which it leads to in this life and the next. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Asr, Surah Al-Asr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wal-Asr. Allah takes an oath by time. It can mean a particular epoch or era in time. And some of the scholars, they say it's referring specifically to the time of the Prophet ﷺ and his emergence within the world. Wal-Asr. Because Allah only swears and takes an oath by that which is azim, that which is mighty and worth swearing by, and worth revering. Wal-Asr. Sayyidina Imam al-Shafi'i, radiallahu anhu, he said that were this to be the only surah to be revealed, it would have sufficed from all of the knowledges and the realities and the secrets which are encapsulated within these divine words. Wal-Asr, by time. Allah is swearing by Al-Asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Indeed, al-insan, the human being, lafi khusr, is in loss. Khusran is like a great loss. You missed the point. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. That's the default. Because the default of the human being also is we incline towards distraction. We incline towards listening to the whisperings of the ego. Follow your heart. How much following of the heart is actually just pure, subservience to the ego. And this is why the masters of this discipline, they say every human being, because of this innate nature, that you're going to be worshipping something. And for that reason, you're going to be enslaved by something. Whether you're aware of it, whether you're not aware of it. But you're enslaved by something. And the waking up, the iman, to the reality, and going back to the one that created you. You're a recognition, you're a created being. So you go back to the one that created you. You go back to the one that's constantly sustaining you. It wasn't just this one-off event, now you're just, like, who's giving you oxygen? Who's giving you all of these incredible, complex, sophisticated systems just within yourself, just within the heart to keep you going? Who's constantly sustaining you and doesn't need to be sustained? Subhanahu wa ta'ala. The believer, the person that actively engages in this process, is the person that has actively taken, as they say, taken off the shackles of servitude to anything else and focused that devotion towards the reality, and that's La ilaha illallah. There is no one else we should be enslaved to. That's another meaning from what we mean by worship, that you're not worshipping anything else. La ilaha illallah. There is no hemorrhaging in our understanding of devotion, where we should be facing, where we should be orienting, where we should be placing our hopes, who we should be trusting in. Illallah, 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 except Allah, Allah, Allah. La ilaha illallah. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Indeed, mankind is in loss, a state of loss. Why? Because they're constantly, we're listening to those subtle things within our souls, within our nafs, within our hawa. We're going with the flow, and the flow is often not in the right direction. Illa, except, and the istithna here. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, except those people that have iman. The people that have once again woken up. The people that have gone through this process of awakening to what is true, to what is real. People of consciousness. People of not just belief, but certitude, so that it impacts the way they see things and that everything that they do. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, that's what they do. وَعَمِلُوا صَالِحَاتِ, and they work, they do good deeds, صالحات, righteous deeds, that which is pleasing and that which points back to that truth. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, and they mutually, تَوَاصَوْا, تَفَاعَل, they have a mutual exchange, بِالْحَقِّ, in what's real. They mutually advise one another and come back to what's real, come back to what's genuine, come back to what's authentic, come back to your reality. Wake up before you die. We're all dying. Life does not last forever. This life does not last forever. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and they mutually advise one another. They cultivate each other's reality, because this is what holds this iman. Iman has to be cultivated. And part of that is this exchange in sabr, to be people of patience. Patience in acts of devotion, and patience in abstaining from that which takes you away from presence. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Okay. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in another ayah in Surah Maryam, indeed those who, people of belief, people of iman, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and do righteous deeds, practical spirituality. They are connected, and it's deeply rooted, and their fruits are pouring forth. What's the point? We become nice people. We just do good stuff. Muslims are nice because they just do good stuff. If only that was the state of every single one of us, yeah, right. But the reality, the impact of when you do what's good, by the very definition of what is good, is it's for Allah. And that which is for Allah comes from Allah. And that which comes from Allah goes back to Allah. And that means it's enshrouded in a light and a nur, and it has an effect upon the person and upon their family and upon the community and upon the society. سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمَ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا, Allah will make for them. And Allah uses His name Ar-Rahman, the most compassionate, the source of compassion and mercy. Ar-Rahman, سَيَجْعَلُ, Allah will make for them wudda. Wudda. Wudda, where also we have the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Wadud, the loving God, the source of all love. Al-Wadud. There are different forms of love in the Arabic language, different words for love, different degrees, different types of state, because love is not one state. There are degrees to love. And wudda infers what they call shadida ta'alluq, an intense devotion and connection, intensely tied, bound, longing to be in one's presence, being pulled, feeling that, that drive, wudda. Can't be away from the person or the thing or whatever it may be. And normally it's to do with, there are reasons, this kind of wood, the type of love it's talking about, there are reasons why people have this. I love this person because 1, 2, and 3. But what this verse, as the scholars say, implies is that Allah will grant this person this form of love. What that means is people's love for that person with no reason, no outward reason. Why do I love this person? Allah Alam. They just become dear and beloved to Allah, to the people. You just see them immediately, you fall in love with them. Because they're people of Iman and the people that do وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, do righteous deeds. Allah will create in the hearts of people, as we know in the hadith, إِذَا أَحَبَّ اللَّهُ عَبْدًا نَادَى جِبْرِيلٌ. If Allah loves one of His servants, one of His creations, something He's made to worship Him, نَادَى جِبْرِيلٌ, He summons Jibreel. And then there's this communication, there's this speech. Mutakallim, Jalla Jalaluh. Indeed, Allah loves Fulan, such and such a person. So love him. There's this exchange where the divine command is related to Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam. فَيُحِبُّهُ Jibreel تِلْقَائِيًا. Immediately, Jibreel falls in love with him. Jibreel doesn't have to work on it. He doesn't have to like go and suss the person out, go and look, go and kind of spend time with the person. Allah loves the person. Jibreel falls in love with the person. And then what happens? Just ends there? No. فَيُنَادِي جِبْرِيلٌ فِي أَهْلِ السَّمَاءِ. So Jibreel alayhi salam summons to the people of the heavens, أهل السماء. And we've got to understand, this is human language. When we talk about the people of the heavens, we understand there are different samawat, there are different skies, you could almost say. And everything in the known universe is still the lowest realm. It's the least subtle and the least supple. It's the hard, coarse realm of the dunya that pulls you down. Where we have, if you fall and hurt yourself, it hurts. When we have asteroids colliding, even in the broader cosmos, with black holes, and dying suns, and solar systems, and galaxies. وَيَخْلَقُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And He creates that which you don't know. So beyond that, there are incredible things which we'll never know. And even that is the lower realm. Because it's the least impressive. But people are bedazzled by that. And this is still creation. What about the second heavens? What about the third heavens? What about the fourth? What about the arsh? What about the kursi? As the hadith alludes to, it's where you to take a ring. The lights of the lower dunya, the heavens, the entire known universe, to take a ring and throw it into the desert. That's the ratio, the difference in terms of size. That's just in terms of size, let alone all of these incredible things that a person could witness within those places. And that's not all of creation. There are a multitude of layers and realms and realities and dimensions within all of those, skies. La ilaha illallah. So it's not just like, Jibreel gives a little speech to a couple of people. Yunadi Jibreel fi ahl sama. Jibreel summons to all of the people of the heavens. Now you start to understand the profundity about one person, one human being. Indeed, Allah loves Fulan. He loves such and such a person. فَأَحِبُّوهُ. So fall in love with him. فَيُحِبُّونَهُ أَهْلُ السَّمَاءِ. So the people of the heavens fall in love with him. What kind of human being is this now? You got a couple of haters on, like, you know, social media, you know, walking in the street, they don't like the way he dresses, don't like the way he acts. You know. Darkness kind of always gets a bit agitated when light comes. So you say, إِذَا جَاءَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ ذَهَبَتِ الشَّيَاطِينَ. You know, when the malaika come, the shayateen clear off. Sometimes you've got to understand, this is part of what's happening with people of Iman. Some people, I don't like that person. Why? What's the reason? You know, the light in the heart, it's like vampires hiding in the darkness. But that person walks and they're mahbub. Even if you've got a handful of haters here and there, like with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the greatest, the dearest, Habibullah. No one was dearer to Allah than him. We're talking about this, a person that Allah loves, and there is nobody that Allah loved more than him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's walking outside the Kaaba, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there's a group amongst the mustahzi'een, a particular archetype of disbeliever from the Quraysh that were known as, they used to mock and ridicule the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the worst of the worst. And they called the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in an offensive way. They spoke to him. And he said, and they used the word abtar. Abtar, it literally in the Arabic language means an amputee, or someone that's had something amputated. But it's like in English, in every language, you have words which now they become part of the slang. It doesn't mean an amputee. And what it meant is somebody that was severed from any nasab. Literally couldn't have children. You could almost say like impotent. And it was said in an offensive way to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? You know, as the greatest guide, the one that was always on a path, he didn't even turn. He didn't even engage. كان يتغافل sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would, in instances like this, he would completely disengage. This is the nature of a person that's on a path. They're not distracted by the haters. You know, they know they have their sights on the goal, and they don't let anyone distract them. We've made some of you a fitna for others. Atasbirun? Are you going to be patient? Allah asks us in the Quran. And that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also revealed the verse, Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar. Indeed, we have given you the kawthar. The kawthar, which is a river in Jannah. And some of the scholars and the people of insight, whilst affirming the outward meaning, they also say the Kawthar means the Ahl Bayt. He thinks you're severed, he thinks you're impotent, he thinks you're going to harm our beloved. We've already given you the Kawthar. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ إِنِّي شَأْنُكَ هُوَ الْأَبْتَرُ. Indeed, the one that is he's the abtar. This is the nature of the people of Allah. Allah takes care of them. He's the abtar. He's the one that will be severed. And he died and had no progeny. La ilaha illallah. Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. Allah is the wali, the one, the guardian, the friend, you know, who looks after those people that believe. Iman has an effect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has called himself a shakur. You know, Allah shows a recompense, like a divine gratitude for something. Not that we deserve anything, we've not done anything, but Allah is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمَ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. Indeed, those that believe and do righteous deeds, good acts, you know, learning their sunnah, learning the deen, learning how to make wudu properly, learning how to be present in the wudu, learning how to make salat properly, learning what breaks the prayer, learning the etiquettes of the tongue, what's halal, what's haram, what's sunnah, what's makruh, how to speak in a prophetic way, learning adab, how to do things in the right way, the right time, in the right place, with the right person, to the right quantity, in the right, everything, meticulous. Being meticulous in our approach and our courtesy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then there are two types of amal. There's a'mal al-jawarih wa a'mal al-qulub. The amal, or the deeds, the acts of the jawarih, literally the limbs, your hands, your eyes, your tongue, your ears. And then you have a'mal al-qulub, the actions or the acts of the heart. And the two are interconnected. So part of a'mal al-salihah, righteous actions, is working on cultivating a healthy climate within one's inner state, to be free of hasad, envy, to be free of unwarranted hatred, to be free of arrogance, to be free of vanity. So this is also practical spirituality in our tradition. And inshallah we'll be discussing clear steps and methods of how to engage with these, and inshallah work upon these traits within the heart to cultivate the heart. So يَجْعَلُ لَهُمَ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. Allah will give them this, Ar-Rahman will give them this wood, this special form of love. Now the other interpretation, because there are multiple interpretations to this verse, is that Allah will make for them this form of wood. This person will have this love for Allah. And one of the great masters of this tradition, who's from the Sheykh of Sayyidina Imam al-Haddad, who's known as Imam Umar bin Abdurrahman al-Attas, that one night, he or another of the Salaf of the tradition of Hadramaut, they were in prayer. And there were people in the home, and he was doing his night vigil, his night prayer, reading through the Quran. And then he came to the verse, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمَ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. And there are other people in his children, in his family were there. And when he came to this verse, he started to recite the last word, love, wudda. Not once, not twice, not for 1 minute, not for 10 minutes, not for 1 hour, but all the way till the rising of Fajr. Wudda, 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 over and over again. And as we know, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is sometimes he would repeat the ayat over and over again. La ilaha illallah. The people in his household in the morning, they asked him, they said, we heard something incredible from you last night. He said, what was it? So when he came to the verse, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمَ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. We heard you recite the last word, wudda, over and over again. He smiles, he goes, Naam. He goes, when I came to that verse and I said, wudda, then Allah placed a taste of that love in my heart. And I wanted to experience and deepen that experience. So I said it once more, wudda, and Allah gave me more. And then I said it a third time, and Allah gave me more. And it just became deeper and deeper and more expansive and more intense. So I carried on reciting until Fajr. Wudda, 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 wudda. Radiallahu anhum. May Allah connect us to these people. And we're going to close just by reading the first, an introduction to a book called Miftah al-Sara'ir, the opening to the innermost secrets. We're going to just paraphrase. There's something in particular that's important and relevant. It's by Sayyidina Sheykh Abu Bakr ibn Salim. He says, وَعَلَمْ وَفَقَنَا اللَّهُ وَإِيَّاكَ تَوْفِيقُ الصَّالِحِينَ. Know, and may Allah give us and you the tawfiq of the salihin, the people that do salihan. إِنَّ هَذِهِ النُّبْدَةِ شَرِيفَةً عليك بالطاعة. Just says you should be in a state of obedience. The people of Allah don't mince their words, as they say. They've understood the reality, and this is where it's at. You want to be a doubter? You want to just like hover on the sidelines? Or do you want it to be sugar-coated? He said, no, you need to be in a state of obedience. You need to start listening to what Allah has told you to do. عليك بالطاعة. Start doing those a'mal as-salihah. Start getting practical. What do you have to show for your iman? فَإِنَّهَا أَصْلُ النَّجَاةِ. Because this is the root of all success and salvation. The root of salvation is in ta'ah, obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَبِهَا يَحْصُلُ الْفَوْزُ فِي الْجِنَانِ. And through it, by virtue of it, a person attains fawz, victory, in the gardens of Jannah. وَعَلَيْكَ بِتَرْكِ الْمَعَاصِي صَغِيرِهَا وَكَبِيرِهَا. And you should leave any form of ma'asi, which you could translate as sin or transgression. If you've understood this reality, O people of Iman, you are now on a path. A diversion now, a distraction from this path, be very careful of it. And he says, صَغِيرِهَا وَكَبِيرِهَا. The small sins and the big sins. Because the people of this path, there's no such thing as a small sin. If you do something to someone that you love, I just hurt them in a small way. That's not the way it works. You can't. If you really love someone, the smallest, the slightest discomfort that you cause them is heavy upon you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of anything that we do, any one of us. But we're in need of Him, and we want to be in this state of engagement. فَإِنَّهَا أَصْلُ الْخِذْلَانِ. Because this is the root of all khidlan. It's the opposite of tawfiq. Diversion, being led astray, loss. وَبِهَا يَحْصُلُ الْخُسْرَانِ. And through it, all loss is follow the path of the ones that have devoted themselves to me, not hate on them. Not think, well, follow them. If you're not from them, be like them, connect to them, be like them. And then he says, وَجَدِّدْ ثِيَابَ الْإِقْبَالِ عَلَى الطَّاعَةِ. Renew the clothes, your garb of receptivity or engagement with obedience. Sometimes these subtle things, like we have this, I'm not really into that whole kind of thing, I just want to do something else. No, this is what we should be doing. It's what we were created for. And when we understand this and we engage in it, things start to open up. So renew your clothes. Renew your garb. Freshen up. وَعَزِمْ عَلَى فِعْلِ الْخَيْرَاتِ فِي نَهَارِكَ وَلَيْلِكَ. And devote yourself, really put in some resolve to do good things in your night and in your day. فإن المقت في تأخير الطاعة وتطويل العمل. Because a sign of you being absolutely deluded is your delay in your movement towards obedience and having long hopes within us that I'm not really going to die. I know other people die, but I'm not really going to die. And I know there are some reminders here, but no, I'm kind of immortal in my own self, because everyone else, I see that person going in the grave, I see that person's janazah, I heard that this person's died, I read this obituary, I went to visit that person. But for me, no, it can't happen to me. That only happens to old people. That only happens to a particular archetype of people. I know that is affecting those people, but over here we're safe. La ilaha illallah. This is all to do with long hopes. And what it does is it makes a person, if Allah gives them a year, then they don't look into these things. They don't re-engage. They don't obey. And they don't reap the fruits of their life. وقد جاء في بعض الأخبار أن تطويل الأمر حرام محض وقلت في ذلك لا ترجي فعلا صالحات إلى غد لعل غدا يأتي وأنت في اللحد. So he says, don't, in a line of poetry, don't hope that, yeah, like tomorrow I'm going to start obeying. Tomorrow I'm going to start doing all this stuff, these extras. Because tomorrow you might be in the lahd. You might be the one that's being lowered down into the grave. He also says, وَلا وَتَبْلَ عِظَامَكَ فِي تُرَابٍ وَتُبْتَلَى بِتَنْعِيمِ الرُّوحِ أو عَذَابٍ بِحُفْرَةٍ. Your bones are decaying in the dust, in the dirt. And you'll be gifted either a bliss of the soul, experience a bliss of the soul, or a torment in a hole in the ground. La ilaha illallah. And then he says, and what a great thing has been said, Siru ilallah urjan wa makasir. Travel to Allah with your limps, and your broken bones. Like inwardly we're broken. Inwardly we don't really know what we're doing. Inwardly we're all over the place. And just when we think, yeah, I'm on a path. Just when we think, yeah, this is working. What do? You keep on going. You keep on going. The point being is that you don't go to Allah perfect. Part of that brokenness is what's holding you back. So you seek uns in Allah. You seek that intimacy in Allah, not a comfort in your own self. Hey, I'm doing everything perfectly now. Allah must be impressed with me. That's a sign a person's been turned away. Move to Allah. As you say, it's baby steps. So our devotion is at different levels. Our engagement with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in different ways. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And He didn't create the jinn kind or the human kind except for ibadah. And that which has been prepared for those people, that through ikhtiyar, they raised from the level of abid, just means subjugated creation, to ibad, those that made an active choice of devotion to put things in its rightful place and to follow the path of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam back into presence, back into what's real. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward them in this life and the next. Hasanat, beautiful things. What are those rewards? Like a trophy or a medal. Rewards it by the one who knows how to reward, that knows what makes you happy, that knows how to give you absolute bliss beyond your wildest imagination. If you're just patient. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us resolve, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow these sessions to be an opportunity to really unpack all of these aspects of a'mal as-salihah, these practices within our tradition, which are inherently spiritual. And may Allah connect the form with reality and our outward acts with inner meaning, and make it a means for transformation, for ascension, for elevation, for purification. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to apply that which is being shared. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq in everything that we do, inwardly and outwardly. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So, for those people which are tuned into the live stream, inshallah, this is going to be a course which, if things go as intended, will now be 3 times a week, inshallah. It will be on Mondays, Wednesdays and Saturdays in Central European time. So that's obviously Swedish time. Greenwich Mean Time, which is the time in the UK, is an hour behind. So it starts at 6 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then most likely at 3 p.m. On Saturdays, so Saturday afternoon. So that will be 5 p.m. UK time and 2 p.m. on Saturday. Wallahu a'lam.